the 9th of June, the government announced a 14.46 trillion budget package for the fiscal year 2023 and 24, which is seen to be a very ambitious, in which there has been some very ambitious targets for the coming fiscal year, where the revenue targets have been set for around 14.46 trillion and fiscal deficit target at 6.8 trillion. We have also seen that there's several sectors such as pharmaceutical sector, IT sector, cement, and real estate. These are the ones which are seen to be at the winning end, whereas some of the sectors such as textile, they are seen at the losing end. So with that, I would like to move to Dr. Waqar, the Joint Executive Director, STBI, to give us or brief us about his take on the current budget and how does he analyze the specific budget. If you could, sir, particularly touch upon the taxation side of the current budget, and how do you think this budget and the taxation policy will affect the different sectors of the economy and its impact on the public at large? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aqsa. And let me start by thanking my colleagues and guests who have joined us from the outside, and guests who may be joining online as well, for taking our time and joining us. This is a very important event, meeting, gathering that we usually try to convene immediately after the budget is presented. And this is an opportunity for us to basically brainstorm together with you and with others that what are those budget-free priorities which have been accomplished. Second, budgetary priorities which should have been there and can still be advocated for. And thirdly, if there are any missed opportunities in the budget which can still be highlighted so that the Budget Anomalies Committee could consider our recommendations. So in that backdrop, of course, Dr. Abid Suleri will join us. He's actually receiving a delegation of parliamentarians on the same subject, and of course also receiving the outgoing director of one of our development partners. But he'll be joining us perhaps either in the middle or for the closing remarks. But as Aqsa has called upon me to present the gist of tax reforms or changes to the tax code which have been presented. So we have a brief presentation on that, which I could try and present, and maybe we can then discuss it later in the Q&A. I'm also very grateful to my colleagues who actually organized this at a very short notice. I know that Asif, Lareb and her team, and Aqsa were in the background working hard at it. And panelists who agreed to join, I know Dr. Sajid was traveling, Dr. Khalid were traveling, and we have with us Wasif and Ahad, who will be giving their sectoral outputs, and of course other colleagues from Environment, Energy Unit and Agriculture will be presenting their views. So grateful to them for not only penning down their analyses within 24 hours of the budget, and you will soon be seeing a published response from STBI, maybe later today or tomorrow once it is in the print. I won't be taking I won't be taking too long, but just want to go over four main things. One are, of course, the guiding principles that when we make changes to taxation in any country, what are the guiding principles that we have or we consider? Second, how have the tax targets been set and how realistic they are? Thirdly, the winners and losers in the budget and how the losers could be compensated or should or should not be compensated, and then the way forward, of course. So, as I said, the guiding principles when one is designing any change for the tax code, there are 4 or 5 main principles. One, as some of you are economists around the table, one is the equity principle, that any change that has been announced on the 9th should not place an undue burden on any one group of people.
That's the first criteria.
Second
Is the certainty principle. The tax system should,
be easy to understand.
for all types of taxpayers, with no hidden levies.
Convenience,
Tax system should be easy to administer. Efficiency, which means the tax system should not discourage any class of working population from working, saving, or investing.
and the principle of
Neutrality, the tax system should not discriminate between different types of economic activity. It should not.
favor one industry over another.
So these are the sort of canons of
Taxation, as we
call them, and one really hopes that when
federation or provinces come together to present
their budgets, this is what they should have in their in the background, the principles that they should hold high.
next. Now,
What has been STPI's approach?
across the
3 decades of evidence-based policy engagement, STPI has long advocated for tax harmonization. And particularly in the aftermath of 18 Constitution Amendment. So this year we have something to celebrate. And we are really happy to see in this year's budget that an amendment has been brought to the Finance Act, which brings federation and provinces closer to this objective. The budget also reveals that due changes have been prepared to treat transmission and distribution of electricity, which was a very contentious issue, as a good in line with the consensus achieved with the provinces. This is a huge breakthrough. I mean, there have been countless meetings of CCI on this subject. And finally, we are walking the path where all provinces could move towards a sound, succinct, sort of a uniform tax code, so that compliance costs faced by the taxpayers, the deadweight loss faced by the taxpayers can be reduced. So really happy to see this change. Now, tax target has been envisaged at 9.2 trillion.
And 9.2 trillion
Is an increase of
28%
over the previous fiscal year. So 28% in a low growth year seems like a very tall ask, basically.
and especially when we know
Know that 50% of this is collected at import stage. And you also have import controls,
which actually means that
only essential items are allowed or will be allowed. We have a devaluing rupee. So trade taxes are anticipated to remain low. And in this environment, how could FDR achieve 9.2 trillion? It won't be possible without a significant tax effort, which is directed towards broadening the tax net, or improvements on tax administration or risk-based audit side, or other related improvements. Otherwise, just banking on the existing tax bases may not deliver going forward. Now, the finance bill, for the taxation side at least, it seems like a mixed bag. So on the bright side, there is relief for small and medium enterprises, IT and IT-enabled services, agriculture, some subsectors of manufacturing. At the same time, there is a feeling that those within the tax net have been burdened even further. And I'll show you an example of this. So, and those who feel that they have been burdened even more, they feel that without taking a bold step or going after those responsible for avoidance and evasion, you may not be able to broaden the overall base. In fact, it is being cited that an amnesty-like measure has also been announced, for foreign inflows. If somebody wants to bring in foreign investment
beyond 100K.
in foreign denominated currency, dollar, no questions would be asked. So this is synonymous to what we have been doing in the past, and this could jeopardize the dialogue with IMF and the
Upcoming FATF
review. So we need to be careful of
such announcements.
Now, we do have, usually we do use tax policy to encourage corporatization, to encourage a move away from informal segment and towards formalization of businesses, However, in the budget, we are somehow witnessing a disincentive for formalization because all firms with revenue above 150 million
in rupee terms will now face
a 9% decline in profit after taxes as super tax has been increased and new slabs have been introduced. The normal tax for these firms will go up from 34 to 39%, which is perhaps the highest in the region.
and other tax burden, which is highest in the region,
Is on the financial sector, which now moves from 43% to 49%.
again highest in the region. So
This is an example of really taxing the same sectors which are already there in the tax regime.
we've also seen
Seen that trading and profits on PSX will also be facing higher incidence of taxes now, including at sale, purchase, and capital gains.
now
Contrary to what IMF is suggesting, there are some tax exemptions which have also been allowed.
and
One is not clear on the criteria which has been allowed,
criteria which has been used to allow
various preferences and exemptions in the tax code. So, for example, there is preferential tax treatment
for certain
banks, for certain programs, for real estate, for builders, for construction.
for film and drama fund. So one is just
Inclined to ask that what was the criteria used, why not have tax exemption for, let's say, AI-based businesses? Why not have tax exemption for, let's say,
a transition towards green
green and clean tech or renewable energy or cleaner environment initiatives, for example, there has to be certain criteria. Furthermore, the time limit for the exemption allowed to tribal areas in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been extended. This is time limit for exemption.
and this is despite
Despite of government's own recognition that this has opened vast space for smuggling,
an unfair competition.
competition is faced by the local firms. So again, one had given this commitment to ICRG and in front of FATF that we will take measures in the best interest of protecting
Our principles, so we don't know
why
we're still moving ahead and really opening up
the door again to large amounts of non-custom paid consignments which are flowing into the country.
I mean, at this point, if you
Go into your wholesale and retail trade markets,
to have non-custom paid, all sorts
of consumer goods. You can just, there's nothing that won't be there on the list,
and we are certain that IMF has not agreed to several of these.
including the amnesty. Piche jayega, please. And we are certain that IMF has not agreed to this, including the amnesty allowed to foreign inflow of funds.
Simply because
It opens the way for money laundering. And money laundering is something which we have strongly given strong commitments for. Now, we also need to have a tax code which ensures certainty for consumers, certainty for businesses.
And this budget,
We believe should not make the mistake of reversing.
the good aspects of previous tax regime. For example,
In the ICT, Islamabad sales tax regime, for example, one is noticing that IT and IT-enabled sector, which was posting decent
gains, we will
need to give this sector some space going forward to expand, but it has come as a surprise that this sector has now been made chargeable to sales tax with no input admissibility, And this is bound to discourage so many startups, several of whom had actually been incubated by the government itself. And you had Ministry of IT and Telecom, which had ensured a package, a 5-year package for these startups. And certainly we have reversed it and we have taxed these startups, startup enterprises. The second thing which came as a surprise was the taxation on credit and debit cards, which are being used. So if government is really serious in promoting documentation of economy, then we don't understand that why higher taxes on the use of credit and debit cards have been introduced. This will discourage new users of digital and online payment methods. Please. So let me just conclude. I have taken long. So the overall assessment is that it seems that those offering the tax policy this time had two main sort of goals in their minds. One was that they have to keep IMF by their side. They do understand the need to restore the IMF program, and hence the reason to actually exhibit a much higher revenue collection target, which some have called unrealistic as well. But at the same time, selective populist measures have also been announced, which does indicate that the government has in their minds that this is going to be an election year, and they would need to at least have something to cheer about, that they have given some relief to agriculture, SMEs, IT sector, and others. Way forward, as we see it, one was really hoping that the main issue facing the general public and the poorest of the poor is inflation. And if inflation is going to persist in the foreseeable future, every instrument of demand management, including taxes, should actually contribute to mitigating the impact of inflation. So one just hopes that the final shape of tax code, once the budget is passed in a fortnight, it will have much stronger measures which mitigate inflation. One is also inclined to say that there are some missed opportunities. We were hoping to see increased, higher tobacco taxation. My colleague will talk more about it. Sin taxes for consumption, regulating consumption, carbon taxes as part of government's overall goal of raising climate finance. We also felt that a stronger mechanism of federal and provincial coordination, data sharing in tax space would be announced. One would still like to see that. So maybe we can discuss this further during the Q&A, but I'll give it back to Oksana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful view on the budget regarding the taxation sector, taxation side. You very clearly mentioned that as a guiding principle, the tax system should not should place any undue burden on any one group of people. And secondly, it should be based on certainty, convenience, efficiency, and neutrality. And you very rightly mentioned that the target of 9.2 trillion, the revenue target, will be hard to achieve, and if they have to achieve it, there'll be extra effort needed for that. With that, I would like to move to Dr. Sajid, the Deputy Executive Director, STPI. So we have seen that the government has set some very ambitious growth target of 3.5% and 21% for the inflation, despite a very low growth rate of 0.29, which was recorded in the outgoing fiscal year. And we have also seen some very ambitious targets for the remittances and exports. So how do you think are these targets achievable? and the government has also claimed that they have not imposed any new taxes on the people. So if you could comment on all of this, how do you see this will burdenize the common man?
Thank you, Aksa. And the last part of your question is actually the heart of the question, the impact on the common Pakistani. But I think that Waqar has left not any good thing to say on budget for me. He has almost covered everything. And so thank you so much. But let me just set sort of two assumptions on which my analysis will be based. The one is that this is available on the numbers available so far from the budget speech analysis. I think वो mic और on है अगर किसी और का है तो. The number two analysis basically जैसे वकार साहब ने भी कहा कि जिसको हम कहते हैं एक premises of analysis क्या है हमारे इस बजट का. मेरे ख्याल है इस वक्त इस गवर्नमेंट के सामने दो चीजें थी इस बजट को बनाते हुए. IMF को बहुत ज्यादा नाराज नहीं करना, तो खुश करना तो मुश्किल था, और लोगों को खुश करना, ये दो बुनियादी मकसद थे इस बजट के. What I am calling is this was a short term management budget. इसका कोई लॉन्ग टर्म एजेंडा नहीं था, और ना ही हमें एक ऐसी गवर्नमेंट से जो 2 से 3 माह के बाद इलेक्शन में जाती है, या ज्यादा से ज्यादा हम एज्यूम कर रहे हैं वो एक्सटेंड करती है तो 1 साल में इलेक्शन में जाती है, तो ये उनका आखिरी बजट था मोस्ट प्रोबेबली. ये इलेक्शन लोडेड बजट था. ऑन दैट ग्राउंड आई थिंक गवर्नमेंट ने एक फेयर कोशिश की है कि IMF को भी बहुत ज्यादा नाराज ना किया जा सके और लोगों को भी एक फील गुड सेंस जो है वो दी जा सके. उसकी दो बुनियादी पॉइंट्स हैं कि IMF को हद से ज्यादा नाराज ना करने के लिए जो मिनी बजट फरवरी में पेश किया गया था गवर्नमेंट ने, जो 170 बिलियन रुपए के नए टैक्सेस लगाए गए थे, 9th रिव्यू को स्टार्ट करने के लिए और उसकी जो कंडीशंस को पूरा करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने उसको मेंटेन किया है अगले पूरे साल के लिए. तो वो जो फरवरी 2023 से पहले 17% टैक्स था GST का, वो फिर 18% हो गया था फरवरी में. अब गवर्नमेंट ने उसको पूरे साल के लिए ऑन किया है. तो जस्ट ऑन साइड नोट, जो अक्सा ने कहा कि क्या कोई नए टैक्सेस नहीं लगे, गवर्नमेंट का ये क्लेम कि हमने नए इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस नहीं लगाए, ये शायद बहुत हद तक दुरुस्त नहीं है. सिर्फ हुआ ये है कि हमने इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस की अनाउंसमेंट फरवरी में कर दी थी, जून में नहीं की, तो हमने उसी को कैरी फॉरवर्ड किया है. उस वक्त हमने 17% से 18% में जब GST को लेके गए थे तो 55 बिलियन का, तो GST से उस वक्त जो एक्सपेक्टेड इनकम थी 4.5 माह में, वो 55 बिलियन के करीब थी जो गवर्नमेंट ने इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस GST के जरिए लिए थे. और अगर हम उसको एवरेज निकाल के 4.5 माह से और 12 से मल्टीप्लाई कर दें, तो इस साल गवर्नमेंट ने GST जो लगाया है, सिर्फ अनाउंस नहीं किया है, अनाउंस फरवरी में हो गया था, वो कोई 146 बिलियन रुपए के जो हैं वो इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस इस गवर्नमेंट ने इस पूरे साल के लिए लगाए हैं. तो वो सिर्फ कह लें कि हिडन है या इम्प्लिसिट है, उसकी अनाउंसमेंट फरवरी में हो गई हुई थी. तो आई थिंक ये आपका जो क्वेश्चन था कि क्या कोई नए टैक्सेस लगे हैं या नहीं लगे, तो नए टैक्सेस लगे हैं. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस 146 बिलियन के इस साल में गवर्नमेंट ने लगाए हैं, कैरी ऑन करके उस 18% GST को जो फरवरी में 4 माह के लिए लाया गया था. तो ये एक सिग्नल भी है कि गवर्नमेंट IMF के साथ जो कमिटमेंट थी, जो डोमेस्टिक लेवल पे रिफॉर्म्स थे, उनको कैरी फॉरवर्ड की. लोगों को रिलीफ देने के लिए बहुत सारे और मेजर्स हैं, लेकिन एक जो बहुत बड़ा है, जो बहुत जिसकी गुडविल वैल्यू बहुत ज्यादा है, वो जो इंक्रीज है आपका सैलरीज में 35% और उसमें. तो ओवरऑल गवर्नमेंट ने शॉर्ट टर्म मैनेजमेंट की है और थोड़ा सा बैलेंस. तो मेरा जो एनालिसिस आगे जो 5-6 पॉइंट्स है वो लॉन्ग टर्म एजेंडे पे है नहीं. सो इट्स इन द एनालिसिस, जो प्रीमिसेस ऑफ एनालिसिस है, शॉर्ट टर्म में गवर्नमेंट क्या कर सकी है और क्या उसको करना चाहिए था. जो दूसरा बड़ा अहम पॉइंट है कि जो आम आदमी की कुव्वत खरीद है 2024 में, वो 2023 की निस्बत कम रहेगी. डिस्पाइट इंक्रीज जो हमें बड़ा नंबर लग रहा है, अगर आप ग्रेड 16 से नीचे वालों को देखें तो जो 35% का एब्सोल्यूट इंक्रीज होगा, पहले 5-6 जो स्केल्स हैं, खासकर जो 7th और 8th या बिलो 10th स्केल था, वो बड़ा लोअर होगा कंपेयर्ड टू वो लोग जो 30% का इंक्रीज हायर सैलरी में ले रहे हैं, तो मेरे ख्याल में ये जो इंक्रीज है ये रिग्रेसिव है। जो गरीब तबका है, जिसको जैसे वकार साहब ने भी कहा, इक्विटी का जो एक सेंस है वो नहीं है। जो अपर ग्रेड क्लास है, जो ज्यादा सैलरीज ऑलरेडी ले रही है, उनका एब्सोल्यूट गेन है वो ज्यादा होगा कंपेयर्ड टू, ये एक उसमें था कि रिग्रेसिव है जो इंक्रीज है बुनियादी तौर पर उसमें। इन्फ्लेशन जो है वो 21% के करीब जो है वो बजट है, और ग्रोथ रेट जो है वो 3.5% के करीब जो है वो बजट है। आप लोग जिन्होंने लास्ट ईयर हमारी बजट की एनालिसिस सुना था, तो वहां दो टारगेट्स ऐसे थे जो अनअचीवेबल थे साइमल्टेनियसली, इन्फ्लेशन का और ग्रोथ का पिछले साल में। इस साल करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट का टारगेट और ग्रोथ का टारगेट दोनों ही अनमैचिंग है। दोनों में से कोई एक अचीव हो सकेगा, दोनों अचीव नहीं हो सकेंगे, और इसकी काफी लॉन्ग टर्म। जस्ट एग्जांपल देने के लिए कि गवर्नमेंट ने जो प्रोजेक्शंस रखी हैं, जो $6 बिलियन का गैप है, जो करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट जो प्रोजेक्टेड है, बट ऑन द assumption that exports will be $30 billion and remittances will be $33 billion. We don't see both of this happening. For example, in current year, July to April, our export remittances are around 22.75 billion in 10 months, financial year 2023. And over the last 10 months, they are on the declining trend. Actually, they are declining over the time. So if this trend continues, roughly we will be able to maximum achieve $25 billion of remittances. But let's add the incentive that government has taken, the diamond card and the amnesty, dollar amnesty, which is that you can bring $100,000 without giving the source at the airports. I think this is where government is relying for an extra $8 billion in the projections of 33 billion remittances. I think this will not be happening. Two reasons. The number one, the gap between interbank and grey market exchange rate will keep people pushing not to bring their amounts to Pakistan, the volatility in exchange rate. Number two, also, whenever who is bringing $100,000 or anything more than this, broadly purpose will be investment purpose. But given political and economic uncertainty that is there, people will avoid. So if we can take on the upper side, exports on $28 billion and remittances, ideally, maybe on the upper side, $30 billion, though which is very difficult to achieve. It still leaves an extra projection of $5 billion. So if you add this $5 billion, which is over projected, to $6 billion, so current account deficit will be around $11 billion instead of $6 billion, which is double of that. Interestingly, the government has projected low imports. I mean, they are opening growth from 0.3% to 3.5%, but they are expecting an increase of only $9 billion imports for a 12-fold increase in growth. You are going from 0.3 to 3.5. So it means it is roughly 12 times higher in terms of, in percentage point times, it is 3.2 percentage point times higher. So we think that imports will be higher than the target which government has set. But if we assume that imports remain, which is projected, still we see 10 to 12 billion dollars of current account deficit instead of the $6 billion. Now what government has been doing over the last year is the import controls. Whenever you have to manage the current account deficit, it is the import controls. So if CAD inflates beyond $6 billion, 9 to 12 or around 10 to 12, government will have two options that government will be working on. The one is to cut the imports further, and that will suppress the growth. So achieving 3.5% of growth target will be very difficult. And there are estimates from the World Bank and ADB that growth may fall around 2% below, the 3.5% target. But interestingly, and more importantly, in Pakistan's context, with a country which has reserves of only $3.4 billion, around $4 billion at this point of time, a higher CAD will put pressure on currency. Exchange rate will be in pressure. And if you combine two things, pressure on exchange rate and higher CAD and going to IMF for another program, the interest rate in Pakistan will be picking up and it may touch around 25% in next year, by the end of next year. So if you combine both, three things, IMF, interest rate of 25%, higher CAD and import controls, you will be ending up somewhere 2 to 2.5% of GDP growth rate. And now this has implications for domestic revenue mobilization, which Dr. Waqar has already mentioned. So it means your unfinanced current account deficit gap and low revenues domestically, because right now the 9.2 trillion target is budgeted at 21% of inflation and 3.5% of growth rate. If it goes down 2%, your borrowing will be increasing. And last year, government did 59% of borrowing from the banking sector. This year, they have budgeted 41% of the total deficit from the banking sector, if there is a growth rate of 3.5% and inflation 21%. If growth falls to 2%, so your borrowing from banking will inflate further, and your external borrowing will also inflate. And all these can translate to higher inflation beyond 21%. So this is where the people will be losing their purchasing power despite this increase in. So many of these targets are they cannot be achieved together. And in summary, the current account deficit and fiscal deficit targets will be higher than what has been projected. And while still the exact numbers are to come out in the budget when it is finally approved, one can give the exact calculation at that time. But we see that the fiscal deficit can fall somewhere between 8 to 9%. These are just available on the available numbers, but they can be refined. And current account deficit will also be inflating 1 percentage point to 1.5 percentage point higher than what is budgeted at this point of time. Most importantly, while there is some increase in public sector workers, जो सरकारी मुलाजमीन है, but informal sector जो कि हमारा एक major sector है, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ minimum wage जो है वो उस तरह से apply नहीं होता है, तो अगर आप 21% इन्फ्लेशन भी नेक्स्ट ईयर रिज्यूम करें, तो जो लोगों की परचेजिंग पावर है वो बहुत ज्यादा कम हो रही होगी उसमें. और हाँ, एक इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट जो शायद टेक्निकल है थोड़ा, इन्फ्लेशन स्लो डाउन का ये मतलब नहीं होगा कि कीमतें कम हो रही है. इन्फ्लेशन इसलिए स्लो डाउन हो रहा है कि आपकी कीमतें ऑलरेडी पीक प्राइस पे हैं और उनमें बहुत बड़ा इजाफा भी परसेंटेज टर्म्स में बहुत छोटा शो होता है. तो जो हम इन्फ्लेशन को कम कर रहे हैं 21% का, इट डज नॉट मीन कि प्राइसेस विल बी ड्रॉपिंग. अगर आप कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स देखते हैं, सीपीआई का जो इंडेक्स है, नॉट रेट ऑफ चेंज, तो वो इंडेक्स बढ़ रहा है अगले पूरा साल में. तो इसका मतलब है कि प्राइसेस अगले पूरा साल बढ़ती रहेंगी, सिर्फ उनके जो बढ़ने की रफ्तार है वो कम हो रही है. तो उस सेंस में भी जो आम आदमी है, खासकर जो बॉटम 40% है, उनकी जो परचेजिंग पावर है वो बहुत ज्यादा रहेगी इसमें. जस्ट टू समराइज, जो हमारे प्रेस रिलीज ले रहे हैं लोग, जो ग्रोथ का टारगेट है वो 4 वजहों से हमें मुश्किल होगा अचीव करना. 1, करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट ऑलमोस्ट डबल देन जो कि बजट किया हुआ है, गोइंग टुवर्ड्स एन IMF प्रोग्राम, उस करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट को पूरा करने के लिए, जो कि जाहिर है हमारी रेंज से बड़ा होगा. इंपोर्ट कंट्रोल्स, उसको कम करने के लिए. हाई इंटरेस्ट रेट फॉर IMF प्रोग्राम एंड प्रेशर ऑन एक्सचेंज रेट को थोड़ा सा डील करने के लिए. और हायर इन्फ्लेशन ये चारों पांचों चीजें मिलके ग्रोथ रेट को कहीं 2 से 2.5 के जो दरमियान में है वो रख रही होंगी। आई थिंक मैंने काफी सारा टाइम जो है वो ले लिया है, बट आई जस्ट थॉट सो जस्ट समराइज। लोगों के जो चैलेंजेस हैं वो अगले साल इसी तरह रहेंगे और बॉटम 40% के जो चैलेंजेस हैं वो बढ़ेंगे। उनकी कुव्वत खरीद पहले इस साल की निस्बत कम होगी। उसमें जो टारगेट्स हैं वो अनमैचिंग है बहुत हद तक, साइमल्टेनियसली उनको अचीव करना बड़ा मुश्किल होगा। और ग्रोथ रेट वी सी समवेयर 2% to 2.5% इनके अंदर रहते हुए, जो कि डोमेस्टिक रेवेन्यू मोबिलाइजेशन को जो ऑलरेडी बहुत एम्बिशियस है उसको फर्दर चैलेंजिंग बना देगी। और हमारी जो रिलायंस है ऑन बैंक बारोइंग वो ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगी, जिससे मनी सप्लाई ग्रोथ और जो इन्फ्लेशन का इम्पैक्ट है वो बढ़ सकता है। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, sir. And I guess you have somehow rightly mentioned that the government has focused on the short-term management, and the government's claim of no new taxes can somehow be denied, as they back in February imposed the 18% general sales tax on the public, which will be implemented for the rest of the year. And secondly, the growth target of 3.5% might be hard to achieve due to the current account deficit, IMF targets, import controls, the higher interest rate, and the higher inflation. And the bottom 40% of the economy, the people, will be facing several challenges due to that. With that, I'd like to move to Dr. Khalid Wali. Sir, the budget, there were several incentives for the energy sector. So if you could please highlight how the energy sector has been utilized in the current budget scenario. Over to you.
Thank you, Aksa. I won't be taking long because there was not so much thing in the budget for particular to energy sector. Let's discuss some of the key pillars of Pakistan's energy crisis. Pakistan's energy crisis is basically one thing is that there are energy shortages, not just in terms of electricity generation, but in terms of total primary energy supply as well. Second is that we are dependent on imported and fossil fuels. Third, outdated transmission and distribution infrastructure, because of which we have enormous amount of system losses. Fourthly is circular debt, which is the result of those inefficiencies or outdated transmission distribution infrastructure. Lastly is the debate on affordability, that whether energy is accessible and affordable to the masses. In terms of budget allocations, there are three heads under which energy sector is related or linked or discussed in the speech of Finance Minister Saab. First one is the hydropower sector, for which 1.35 billion has been allocated. If I give you the breakdown, for Mohammed Dam, 10.5 billion rupees have been allocated. For Dasu hydro project, that is of 2,160 megawatts, 59 billion has been allocated. For Damir Bhasha Dam, 20 billion. Neelam Jhelum hydropower, that is 969 megawatts, 4.8 billion has been allocated. Extension of Tarbela Dam is allocated with 4.45 billion. Rehabilitation of Warsak Dam, that is $2.6 billion. So total is 101 billion for hydroelectric. This is 11% of total public sector development program, that is PSTP. Second head is the energy sector, which comes under the Ministry of Energy. 89 billion has been allocated for transmission lines. One coal power plant has been budget is allocated for one coal power plant, that is Jamshoro coal power plant. 9% of total PSTP is allocated for this energy sector. To give you a breakdown, for Jamshoro coal power plant, 12 billion rupees has been allocated. Pakistan, Tajikistan, 500 kV transmission line, 16 billion rupees have been allocated. For grid system efficiency of NTDC, 5 billion. For transmission system of Suki Kenari, Kohala and Mohal hydroelectric dams, 20 billion. And transmission line for Dasu Dam allocated for 6 billion. Total is 59 billion, that is 9% of total PSTP. Third head is agricultural tube wells. Okay. 30 billion have been allocated for solarization of agricultural tube wells, 5% of total PSDB. Just to give you some statistics, total tube wells in terms of agriculture, there are 15 lakh tube wells, 12 lakhs are diesel powered tube wells, 3.1 lakhs are electric powered tube wells. Budget allocated in this budget is for 3% of those total solar power, total agriculture tube wells. 5% of PSDB has been allocated for this. What are some strengths in terms of energy sector for this budget? One is that the budget is renewable energy focused budget. I give you the breakdown, 66% of total energy related expenses or projected expenses comes from hydroelectric or renewable energy projects, 26% for transmission system, and 8% for that coal power plant that is being built in Jamshoro. Second strength of this budget was renewable energy indigenization. Finance ministers have mentioned that there is going to be exemption of custom duty on raw materials for solar panels, inverters, and battery manufacturing. Third is that there is a good handsome amount of allocation for transmission system. Domestic coal power generation is also focused in this budget. Infrastructure development, regional integration, Pakistan, Tajikistan 500 kV transmission line. Lastly is the focus on petroleum storage capacity of Pakistan, which in this form of bonded bulk storage policy for petroleum products. What are some missed opportunities? There is no mention of electric vehicles. We were thinking that this budget would include this at least for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. There is no allocation for electric vehicles, no allocation for solar power plants or wind power plants. There are some environmental concerns because of that coal power plant. Lack of comprehensive energy conservation measures. Second last is no mention of CPEC related import coal power plants, because recently one coal power plants filed for bankruptcy, that is Port Qasim Port Power Plant. No policy for a roadmap for financial settlement of circular debt. What are different opportunities? One is that there is focused on public-private partnerships. Second is this budget gives us some sort of opportunity to legislate in terms of energy conservation measures. Like we have recently seen that Cabinet has approved the policy for earlier closure of shopping malls and other businesses. What are different threats that can affect the budget estimates? First one is mounting circular debt. Lastly is the limited mention of key energy sector institution like private Power Infrastructure Board, NECA, National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Authority. What is the winner in this budget? I would say the hydropower. What thing is missing in terms of climate and energy nexus is the mention of carbon credits or carbon taxation, as rightly mentioned by Dr. Waqar as well. So that's that. I would hand over to Akshay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. And I guess you somehow mentioned that the budget focuses on the renewable energy and hydropower as whenever 101 billion have been allocated for the hydropower, which is 11% of PSDP. And secondly, I guess we can appreciate the fact that there has been the exemption of the custom duty on the solar panels. With that, I would like to move towards Mr. Ahad Nazir. So if you could please mention the incentives we could see for the private sector, particularly in the current budget for the fiscal year 23-24. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aksa. So just to highlight some of the things for the private sector, usually if we just compare this budget with any of the budget presented by Ishaq Dar Saab, I think the incentives, most of the incentives are same. Just a few positives that I took out from the budget. I will try to present that because most of the discussion already has taken place. So I think the first thing that I realize is that the government is trying to at least imagine that they have to kill both deficits, the trade deficit and fiscal deficit, through different means. So while IT and IT-enabled services have been taxed, or they've tried to put them in the tax net, but there are incentives for the IT and ITES exporters. Some of the incentives are that they have a lower income tax rate, simplified tax returns, and automated exemption certificate issuance. 1% of import is tax-free for the exports for that particular year, and they have been granted the status of SMEs. So these are focused, as per my knowledge, to make up for the trade deficit rather than the fiscal deficit. The next thing is, and of course, now I'm coming to the negative part. So usually, and there was a statement by Dar Saab that actually caused this statement from myself. The tax regime that has been proposed has been, he has tried to demonstrate it as a Robin Hood style tax regime, that he will be taxing the rich and favoring the poor. And this usually ends up very bad for the lower middle and the lower class. And secondly, with regards to the import bans on certain things, I think the definition of necessity and luxury should be clear in the minds of the customs as well. There are a lot of things that are necessities which have been termed as luxuries just because of their value. For example, in our recent visit to the wind power sites in Thatta, almost 20% of the wind turbines are not functional because they were not allowed to import the spare parts. And just like Dr. Waqar mentioned, we were really hoping that the proposals for the tax base expansion will be taken up in this budget, but there were no such tax bases accounted for there. Another thing that I really want to focus on is that subsidy is just like a scholarship we get in the university. So there is a merit scholarship and there is a need-based scholarship. I think instead of going for need-based subsidies, we need to have merit scholarship, and that should be based on performance. If a sector is being incentivized by the government, and if it is not performing as per the requirements of the government, then they should not be incentivized next time. So there have been incentives for textile sector. Some import duties have been reduced, and the import substitution for the glass sector, which was very unusual, and I was not expecting that. Third aspect, which is with regards to skill development and entrepreneurship development programs, there have been consistent investment by the government in skill development and entrepreneurship development. But what we need to ask ourselves is that whether that investment has been producing that rightful benefit or not. So that benefit assessment, that monitoring and evaluation is required at this stage. And based on that, I think these programs should be continued, just not for the sake of just going forward. So these are all from my side.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahad. With that, I would like to move towards Mr. Wasif. If you could touch upon the tobacco taxation. We have seen that for the past 3 years, there has been no measurable taxes on the tobacco sector, but in the past 1 year, there have been the taxes 3 times, but again, no taxes in the current budget. So if you could highlight on that point. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Aksa. If I can, if you may just recall the last slide of Dr. Waqar's presentation, in which he was giving the concluding remarks, and under the heading of missed opportunities, he talked of tobacco taxation and then sin tax and carbon taxes. But then the remarks given by Dr. Sajid Amin very ably mentioned that there were a few taxes imposed in the month of February. But just to bring into perspective why tobacco should be taxed. Pakistan is the 5th most populous country in the world and the largest in the WHO Eastern Mediterranean region, having a population of around 236 million people. people. And the current life expectancy is around 7.64 years. And the urban population stands for 36.4%, and the literacy rate is around 59%. And 24.3% of the population in Pakistan lives below the poverty line. Pakistan possesses a mixed economy model where a significant portion of the gross domestic product is contributed by the government owned establishments, departments, and enterprises. In 1980s, the country witnessed a paradigm shift in the economy through industrialization, and the major share of the GDP comes from the services and industrial sectors, while agriculture contributes around 19.2% of the GDP and provides employment to around 38.5% of the people. WHO estimates that there are 13.1 million adults aged 15 or more, or 10.3% of the total adult population, those who smoke cigarettes. And the cigarette consumption kills around 164,000 people annually. The total attributable cost to smoking-related diseases or deaths for 2019 was around 615.07 billion rupees, and that was equivalent to $3.85 billion at that time. And indirect cost, including morbidity and mortality, make up around 70% the total cost. And out of these, the cost of three major diseases make up around 437.8 billion, and that is 1.15% of the GDP in 2019. Factors including low prices, disproportionate taxes, and high accessibility or availability have made this product an attractive habit for the individuals. The government has demonstrated this year a strong resolve to curb cigarette consumption in Pakistan by increasing federal excise duty on tobacco industry, which has been trying to hinder such initiatives by creating a false narrative about high taxes, directly proportionating it with reduced production, which they claim would consequently affect tax revenues. Also, the tax hike would negatively impact the profitability of the tobacco industry, which may increase the trade of non-tax paid cigarettes. After 3 years of stagnant federal excise duty rates, FED was revised thrice in the last fiscal year, which was 2023. The first change was made in July 22, where tax rates were on premium or tier 1 cigarettes were increased by 13.5%, and economy cigarettes, which we also call as cigarettes of tier 2, were increased by 12.1%. Subsequently, a change in FED was promulgated on 23rd of August 2022 with an increase of 10% in FED. And the major increase in the FED was made this year on 14th of February 2023 through supplementary finance bill, and the rate was substantially increased by 154% on tier 1 cigarettes and 146% on economy or tier 2 cigarettes. To study the impact of federal excise duty on the net turnover and gross profit and validate the tax revenues on 3 big cigarettes companies, we looked at the financial statements of these companies, accounting for almost 90% of the share of the total market. The analysis focused on the first 9 months of fiscal year 2022 over fiscal year 2023. And the total tax revenue, including FED and GST, was around 114.5 billion in March 2022. In the March 2023, it increased from 127.5 billion rupees, which demonstrates an increase of around 11.3%. And these figures are based on the declared financial statements, and the indirect tax collection could be even higher. I would just like to conclude that contrary to the paid tax value, financial data shows an estimated 30% of increase in the net turnover. And the growth in tax revenue should have outpaced the growth in net turnover of these three companies. I would not name them, but these, as I already told, that these companies have around 90% of the total market share. So these are the big three players. And the aggregate profit growth rate is reported to be 39%, which falsifies the claims made by these industries or these three big players that has impact the tobacco industry that has been taxed, being increasingly taxed, has impacted their financial performance. Currently, there is a massive increase in tax rates on cigarettes, and net of tax price, decrease production, escalate government revenue from the tobacco industry, and a rise in the profit of tobacco companies. And these findings contradict the claims made by the tobacco industry that higher taxation has impacted negatively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wasif. Moving towards the conclusion, we have today talked about how the taxation policy as a whole impacted the economy and how the loopholes, and we highlighted the loopholes in the tax policy. And we have also talked about how the government has set some very ambitious targets which might be difficult to achieve. We also talked about the energy policy, the tobacco taxation, and how the current budget has impacted the private sector. With that, I would like to move towards the question answer session. I would like to request the audience if they have any questions, so please go ahead. Over to you.
Someone was saying that this budget is a business friendly. I could not understand this statement.
किसी ने नहीं कहा।
हमने किसी ने नहीं कहा जी कि ये बिजनेस फ्रेंडली है।
मैंने तो अखबार में जो पढ़ा वो
अच्छा
Yes, sir.
I think I have a few points to make here on budget regarding what Ahad has mentioned earlier and what Sir has just pointed out that it was not a business-friendly budget. A few days back, we had a consultation on plastic circularity in STPI, and there we invited some corporations and SME sector and some startups, and they raised a few points that I would like to mention here. You know, individuals and organizations, they are engaged in entrepreneurship. They are trying to establish some businesses, but there are certain issues that they are facing. There are certain challenges for them. The basic challenge is the financial incentive. Even if you are talking about an SME, a startup, or even a corporation, if you want them to develop some initiatives in the sector of environment, even as part of a CSR, they would like to have some incentives in, if they are giving you some solutions. For example, if they want to do the plastic upcycling, they want to do the CSR, they want to do the forestation, they would want the government to have to show some ownership, and they would want the government to establish some financial incentive, whether it's in the form of a tax break, whether it's in the form of a grant, whether it's in the form of a subsidy. So there has been no mention on that financial incentive for the private sector. Secondly, there has been no mention in the budget regarding collaboration with industry. A very little mention has been, highlighted by the finance minister. So collaboration with industry association is missing again. And we have witnessed this even in the past few years, that industries have been facing issues regarding so many problems that they have, whether it's about exports, whether it's about manufacturing, whether it's about the services sector. So it could have encouraged collaboration between the government and industry associations to develop sector-specific supply chain initiatives, to ensure that we have good exports, to ensure that we have good trade. So that was missing. That's something I felt from the budget. Then one of the key focus of the government is on environment. I believe 5E framework has been established, and the budget is also, they tried to align it with the 5E framework. So one of the E is environment. I think the government lacks a bit clarity on the specific sector. They have allocated funds for the climate action or for climate change, but they have not allocated funds for something that could have been done regarding green public procurement. I think the budget could have emphasized the implementation of green public procurement policies. This would involve incorporating environmental and social sustainability criteria into government procurement processes, favoring products and services with lower environmental impacts and high circularity. Again, another aspect that I would like to mention here is waste sector has great potential in terms of economic benefits, and waste economy could generate a lot of benefit for Pakistan. There has been no mention in the budget. Sector specific budget is missing, and it's a very generic budget that has been provided. Again, there would be more confusions and there are lack of incentives. So I think that's something that government could have incorporated easily. And yes, I think these are my points. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zainab, for your insightful comments. Do we have any other questions? Over.
Thank you very much for giving
me an opportunity to say something. I will say in Urdu.
मेरा नाम साजिद हुसैन मलिक है। मैं मुख्तलिफ डिजिग्नेशंस
पे रहा हूँ, रजिस्ट्रार ऑफ कंपनीज रहा हूँ और बैसियत रजिस्ट्रार बलोचिस्तान सूबे का रहा हूँ, आजाद गवर्नमेंट का लीगल एडवाइजर रहा हूँ, सीनियर रिसर्चर रहा हूँ, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ लॉ, हाई कोर्ट एंड वजारत कानून से रिटायर्ड। बजट जो है ये आम आवाम का मसला ही नहीं है, ना आवाम को समझ आती है। वो समझते हैं कि बजट है
और हमारी चीजें जो है वो उसकी प्राइसेस इंक्रीज होती हैं, अगर कम होती हैं तो
बजट सही है, अगर नहीं होती तो बजट हमारे खिलाफ है।
सिर्फ एक क्वेश्चन बिल्कुल सिंपल सा पूछना था, ये जो सैलरीज
और पेंशन इंक्रीज करते हैं, ये पेंशनर्स और एम्प्लॉयज के दरमियान
फर्क क्यों रखते हैं? इंक्रीज जो
करते हैं मतलब वो उनके भी वही बच्चे वगैरह होते हैं या उनके एक्सपेंसेस होते हैं वो जो सरकारी मुलाजम के होते हैं।
ये तो चले ठीक है, 1 से 16 हो गया,
वो कम अज कम उनको ज्यादा
आदमी दे सकता है, तो इसकी क्या वजह है? मुझे कोई समझ नहीं आई,
अगर कोई बता सकें। थैंक यू।
शुक्रिया जी, आपका सवाल जो है बहुत अहम सवाल है और ये जो लास्ट वाला आपका नुक्ता है, मुझे मैं नॉट एज STPI बल्कि इन पर्सन में मुझे लगा कि इस दफ़ा जो पेंशनर के लिए इंक्रीज थी वो काफ़ी कम थी। जहां अफरात ज़र जो है वो तजावुज़ कर चुकी है 36% से, वहाँ पे अगर आप 17.5% पेंशनर को कॉम्पनसेट कर रहे हैं तो ऑलरेडी जो कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग इंडेक्स है वो इस वक्त उस जगह पे खड़ी है जहां 17.5% जो है आपको पिछले साल की बेस लाइन पे मेंटेन नहीं कर रहा। मेरा ख्याल है कि आपका नुक्ता बहुत अहम है। आज की जो नशिस्त है यहाँ से जो प्रेस रिलीज जाए उसमें आपके इस नुक्ते को इंक्लूड होना चाहिए कि जो हमने इंक्रीज की है ग्रेड, कम से कम जो ग्रेड 1 से 16 के मुलाजमीन की इंक्रीज है, कम से कम वहां तक जो है वो पेंशनर्स को कंपनसेट। थैंक यू। थैंक यू
जी, थैंक यू
सर। मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे डॉक्टर साहब ने कहा इस बजट को हमें शॉर्ट टर्म राय में देखना चाहिए, और आपने जैसे मेंशन की कुछ चीजें वो एक रिफॉर्म बजट के पर्सपेक्टिव में आपने, तो क्या हम एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं अक्टूबर में एक नया फुल बजट जो कि पूरे साल के लिए? तो दूसरा क्वेश्चन है मेरा रिगार्डिंग टैक्सेशन। डॉक्टर साहब ने जैसे मेंशन किया साथ में कि मिनी बजट में जो टैक्सेस लगाए गए उन्हीं को कंटिन्यू किया गया है, तो मिनी बजट में जो टोबैको की टैक्सेशन लगाएगी क्या उसको कंटिन्यू किया गया है?
अच्छा, जो लास्ट टैक्सेस थे टबैको पे वो फरवरी में ही इम्पोज हुए। इस बजट के अंदर कोई नए टैक्सेस नहीं है टबैको के ऊपर किसी प्रोडक्ट पे भी, चाहे वो रॉ फॉर्म में हो या वो जो है आई मीन उसको इंडस्ट्री के थ्रू वो आ रहा हो। तो दोनों में कोई भी जो रिसेंट बजट है इसके अंदर कोई इंक्रीज नहीं है ना कोई डिक्रीज है। सो देयर इज आई मीन यू कैन से इट्स स्टैग्नेंट।
So there are questions regarding continuation of those taxes.
वो
जैसे कि आपने
continue-
mention किया कि 18% को कंटिन्यू किया है और
कंटिन्यू रहे हैं सारे पूरे का पूरा जो मिनी बजट था, जो वो फाइनेंस बिल था जो मिड फरवरी 2023 में आया था, वो पूरे का पूरा कंटिन्यू हुआ है। उसमें शुगरी आइटम्स पे है, टोबैको पे है, जीएसटी है। इसीलिए जो नए टैक्सेस हैं वो 200 बिलियन के करीब हैं। जो 500 बिलियन है वो गवर्नमेंट ने कैरी फॉरवर्ड किया है उसी मिनी बिल से। थैंक यू।
Do we have any other questions?
Sir, my question is regarding to the tax revenue. जैसा गवर्नमेंट ने जो टारगेट सेट किया 9.2 ट्रिलियन सेट किया है, but there is no more taxes, new taxes in the budget, especially not on agriculture income or not on even the real estate. तो सर इसके अलावा अगर सर हम पिछले साल का देखें तो तकरीबन लास्ट ईयर में जो डेफिसिट आ रहा है टैक्स रेवेन्यू जनरेशन का, वो रफली अराउंड 1 ट्रिलियन रुपीस का है। तो गवर्नमेंट क्या थिंक कर रही है, किस तरह से ये टारगेट अचीव करेगी?
अक्सर इफ आई कैन रिक्वेस्ट कि हम कुछ क्वेश्चंस ले लेते हैं,
Sure.
क्योंकि हो सकता है बहुत सारी ये क्वेश्चंस हैं वो ईडी साहब की इंटरवेंशन में कवर भी होते हैं।
बिल्कुल जी सर।
अभी किसी टेक्सटाइल वाले से मेरी बात भी हो रही थी कल। वो गौहर जो है एप्टमा के, उन्होंने पेपर के ऊपर कैलकुलेट करके दिया है कि 89% इंडस्ट्री को है, दैट इज नॉट टोटल टैक्सेशन का बर्डन 70% इंडस्ट्री 70%। और दूसरी तरफ ना एग्रीकल्चर पे ना रियल एस्टेट पे कोई टैक्स लगा है, तो मतलब ना एग्रीकल्चर इनकम पे लगा है ना रिटेलर पे लगा है। तो ये तो ऐसे लगता है कि जहाँ पे अगले इलेक्शन कॉन्टेक्स्ट करने कैंपेनिंग लगती है ये। प्रोग्राम करके लेंगे हम पूरा।
Do we have any other question? Sir, I would request you for the closing remarks and the answer of the questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Waqar, Sajid, Khalid, वासिफ, आप सब ने जो बजट के बुनियादी खदोखाल उन पर बात की। कल का जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर की स्टेटमेंट है वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, जो लाहौर में उन्होंने दी IMF के साथ जो नेगोशिएशन उनको कंटिन्यू रखने की, और उन्होंने भी कहा कि एक दफ़ा दोबारा दोहराया हमेशा की तरह कि नामा जायजा जल्द मुकम्मल हो जाएगा, कुछ यहाँ से फंड्स में आ रहे होंगे। अब ये तो मालूम नहीं कि नामा जायजा मुकम्मल होता है या नहीं, या फंड्स आते हैं कि नहीं, लेकिन एक चीज़ है कि अगर आप 2018 का जो इलेक्शन बजट था PMLN का छठा बजट, अगर आप उससे कंपेयर करें तो फ्राइडे वाला बजट आल दो ये बहुत एक्सपेंशनरी है, बहुत डेफिसिट वाला है, लेकिन उससे कहीं कम पॉपुलिस्ट है। तो अगर किसी ने प्री इलेक्शन बजट टिपिकल देखना हो तो वो 2018 वाला छठा बजट था, जिसमें बेतहाशा रिलीफ्स जो थे वो अनाउंस कर दिए गए थे। और मैं समझता हूँ कि चूंकि हुकूमत IMF के साथ मामला जारी रखना चाह रही है, रिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द फैक्ट कि इस दफ़ा पैसे मिलें या ना मिलें, और उसकी वजह से ये बजट उतना पॉपुलर नहीं जितना ये हो सकता था। अब इसकी अगर हम रीज़न देखना चाहें तो जाहिर है कि इस वक्त PDM में शामिल जमातें जो हैं वो PTI को अपने लिए कोई सियासी खतरा नहीं समझ रही। उनका ख्याल है कि इलेक्शन में PTI उस तरीके से मुखालफत उनकी नहीं कर पाएगी, तो अगली हुकूमत जो है वो इन्हीं में से कोई जमात जो है वो लीड कर रही होगी। हाल तो कि इस वक्त पीपल्स पार्टी और PMLN की जो रिफ्ट है वो बड़ी वाज़ेह होती चली जा रही है। किसी भी बड़े लीडर ने बजट सेशन अटेंड नहीं किया था, और जो अभी तक की इतलात हैं किसी ने बजट क्वेश्चन के लिए अपनी लिस्ट नहीं दी पीपल्स पार्टी ने कि बजट पे उनकी तरफ से कौन बोल रहा होगा। सो थोड़ा सा लग रहा है कि दोनों पार्टीज में एक रिफ्ट जो है वो शुरू हो चुका है आज़ाद कश्मीर के बाई इलेक्शन के बाद स्पेशली। बट हैविंग सेड इट, ये सारी पॉलिटिकल इकॉनमी अपनी आ जाएगा। अगर IMF के साथ हम एंगेज रहना चाह रहे हैं और IMF नहीं भी नेक्स्ट टाइम देता, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि असेंबली में अप्रूवल से पहले ये बजट के नंबर रिवाइज हो रहे होंगे कुछ, जैसे कि मफ्ता साहब के बजट के पिछले साल हुए। तो जो बजट पेश हुआ बाद में IMF ने उस पर एतराज़ात लगाए और उसमें से बहुत से एडजस्टमेंट जो हैं वो हालांकि उस वक्त अपोजिशन कोई नहीं थी जो कि अपनी अमेंडमेंट्स देती, लेकिन हुकूमत ने उसको वन साइडेड बहुत सी रिवीजन उसमें की। और अब भी अगर मुझे जो 2-3 इसमें मेजर पॉइंट नजर आ रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल सूबाई सरप्लस का जो पॉइंट है 650 अरब रुपए का, तो वो देयर इज नो वे कि 650 अरब रुपए आपके पास सूबाई सरप्लस आ सके, स्पेशली जबकि सूबाई हुकूमतें चाहेंगे। और आपने देख लिया सिंध के बजट में कि उन्होंने वफाक से थोड़ी ज्यादा सैलरी इंक्रीज की, और पंजाब और केपी भी यही कर रहे होंगे। तो अगर ये इस तरीके से करते हैं तो तकरीबन इसका जो इम्पैक्ट है सैलरीज का और पेंशन इंक्रीज का सूबों में वो कोई 450 अरब रुपए के लगभग आना चाहिए। और अगर वो आता है तो इसका मतलब है कि 650 अरब के जो सरप्लस है प्रोविंशियल सरप्लस वो उसमें से 450 तो सीधा सीधा निकल जाएगा। सेकंड जिस पे मैं देख रहा हूँ IMF एतराज करेगा वो एनुअल डेवलपमेंट प्लान है सूबों के, और पंजाब और केपी के केस में बहुत वाज़ेह नजर आ रहा है कि ये प्री इलेक्शन एनुअल डेवलपमेंट प्लान है कि पिछले पूरे साल का पंजाब का ADP जो है वो 706 अरब रुपए का था, और पंजाब का सिर्फ 4 महीने का जो है इस दफा वो 426 अरब रुपए का है। यानी अगर आप इसको पूरे साल पे फैलाएं तो ये 1278 रुपए का एनुअल डेवलपमेंट प्लान बनता है, जो वफाक के PSDP से भी ज्यादा है। तो जाहिर है कि IMF इस पे भी बात करेगा। तीसरी जो चीज़ है वो बजट में प्राइवेटाइजेशन की जो प्रोसीड्स हैं, तो पहले तो होता था पिछले बजट में उसमें कुछ रख देते थे, आता नहीं था, नहीं आता, बात की बात है। इस दफा टोटल ही 15 अरब रुपए रखे गए। तो प्राइवेटाइजेशन इसका मतलब है कि गवर्नमेंट सोच रही है कि इस साल नहीं कर पाएगी। तो जैसे हमने ज़रूरी इस्लाहात जो है उनको भूल गए कि वो नहीं हो पाएंगी पाकिस्तान में, तो इस बजट को देख के तो लगता है कि प्राइवेटाइजेशन जो है वो पाकिस्तान में कम से कम इस साल हुकूमत जो भी आएगी वो उस पर नहीं करना चाहेगी, नहीं कर सकेगी। तो ये कुछ इश्यूज हैं जिनकी वजह से ये बजट के नंबर जो हैं, अव्वल तो ये 30 जून से पहले असेंबली में पास होने से पहले रिवाइज हो रहे होंगे, नहीं तो ये इलेक्शन के फौरन बाद एक मिनी बजट जो है वो फौरी तौर पे आएगा, और उसके बाद अगला प्रोग्राम जो है वो शुरू हो रहा होगा। अब जो एक शहरी का जो कंसर्न है एक वो है आपका महंगाई का, वो है रुपए की कीमत का, कि रुपए की कीमत कहाँ पे जाएगी, वो है इंटरेस्ट रेट का कि इंटरेस्ट रेट जो है वो बढ़ेगा या कम होगा, महंगाई में एनर्जी का और फूड का है। तो ये कंसर्न है। जाहिर है कि अगर हम सब इस कमरे में बैठे अपने प्रोफेशनल हेड्स उतार दें तो जो हमारे लिए मेजर कंसर्न है वो तो यही है कि बिजली का बिल कितना देना है, पेट्रोल कितना रुपये लीटर मिलेगा, गैस का बिल कहाँ पे जाएगा, आलू प्याज टमाटर का रेट क्या होगा। और ये चीज़ें जो है इनमें से अक्सर एनर्जी जो है, एनर्जी तो अब कई सालों से बजट में का हिस्सा नहीं है, तो ओगरा और नेपरा डिटर्मन कर रहे होते हैं और वो अपने हिसाब से रेट डिटर्मन करते रहेंगे, और उसका तो इस फेडरल बजट में कोई लिंक नहीं बनेगा। फूड की जो इन्फ्लेशन है डेट डिपेंड्स ऑन मॉनसून। तो पाकिस्तान में आप जितना भी अच्छा बजट बना लें या जितना भी बुरा बजट बना लें, एक अच्छी या बुरी मॉनसून रेंज जो है वो सारी जो आपकी नंबरिंग है उसको टॉपल कर देती। तो अल्लाह करे अगर ये इस साल मॉनसून जो है वो उस बेहतर रहती है और हुकूमत जो है उसके किसी भी अनप्रडिक्टेबिलिटी का मुकाबला करने के लिए तैयार होती है, तो आप देखेंगे कि जो आपकी फूड इन्फ्लेशन है वो थोड़ी काबू में रहेगी, क्योंकि एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर बेहतर परफॉर्म करेगा। अगर ऐसा नहीं होता खुदा न खास्ता तो फूड की शॉर्टेज होगी और ऑटोमेटिकली उसकी कीमतें जो हैं वो बढ़ जाएंगी। लेकिन इसका जो दूसरा बड़ा हिस्सा है वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मेजर्स हैं। अभी कुर्बानी के बकरे इंपोर्ट नहीं होने, ना उनके लिए चारा और चने की दाल इंपोर्ट होनी, चने की दाल तो खैर इंपोर्ट पहले से हो चुकी है, लेकिन उनका चारा इंपोर्ट नहीं हो रहा होगा। आपके टमाटर प्याज हरी मिर्च इंपोर्ट नहीं हो रही होगी, लेकिन उसके बावजूद अभी चूंकि करीब आ रही है तो ये सारी चीज़ें डॉलर्स में पहुंच जाएंगी। तो यहाँ पे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मेजर्स जो हैं उनको भी अडॉप्ट करना ज़रूरी है जब हम महंगाई की बात करते हैं। और नेक्स्ट जो 3 चीज़ें होनी चाहिए हर बजट में, इसमें भी इस साल भी नहीं है, वो है आपकी प्राइवेटाइजेशन, वो है टैक्स ऑन इनकम एंड एग्रीकल्चर, और सारी एग्रीकल्चर पे नहीं, वो 1% लोग जिनके पास 20% ज़मीनें हैं, जो 20% ज़राई रकबा है, उनकी बात मैं कर रहा हूँ। तो मैं 60% लोग जो कि 12 एकड़ से कम के काश्तकार हैं मैं उनकी बात नहीं कर रहा, लेकिन और तीसरा है आपका ये ट्रेडर्स या मर्चेंट्स पे टैक्स। और आप देखेंगे कि हर हुकूमत इसको अवॉइड करती है। प्राइवेटाइजेशन हम इसलिए नहीं कर पाते कि स्टील मिल और पीआईए प्राइवेट होता है जो कि कराची में बेस्ड है, वहाँ पे कराची बेस्ड पार्टीज जो भी हैं उनके वोट खराब होते हैं। वो खा पीपल्स पार्टी हो, वो MQM हो, वो जमात इस्लामी हो, वो उसकी मुखालफत करेंगे। जो 1% बड़े हैं जिनके पास 20% रकबा है वो आपके असेंबलीज में बैठे हैं और बाकी जगहों पे भी हैं, तो जाहिर है कि वो अपने इनकम पे टैक्स नहीं लगने देंगे। मर्चेंट्स पे टैक्स जो है वो PMLN के हक में नहीं जाता है, ट्रेडर्स पे, मर्चेंट्स पे मिफ्ता साहब ने लगाने की कोशिश की, वो नहीं लगा पाए। तो ये चीज़ जो है ये तो इसी तरह से रहेगी। और अगर ये इस तरह से रहती है, यानी ना आप अपने एक्सपेंडिचर कंट्रोल करते हैं प्राइवेटाइजेशन करके और ना अपनी टैक्स बेस और टैक्स नेट बढ़ाते हैं, तो फिर जो डेफिसिट जिसकी तरफ वकार और साजिद ने इशारा किया होगा अपनी टॉक्स में, वो उसी तरह से सस्टेन करेंगे। तो इसका हल क्या बनता है? इसका हल जो STPI प्रपोज कर रहा है, हम बात कर रहे हैं वही जो एक पुरानी टर्म और जार्गन चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी। पहले चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी जो था वो था तमाम जमातों में, इस वक्त हम प्रपोज कर रहे हैं PDM के अंदर चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी। तो हमारा ये ख्याल है कि दिस इज द बेस्ट टाइम, उससे पहले कि पीपल्स पार्टी और PMLN एक दूसरे पे बंदूकें तान लें। अभी इस कोलिशन में रहते हुए PDM में शामिल जमातों को आपस में चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी पर डिस्कशन जो है वो शुरू कर देनी चाहिए और उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। प्राइम मिनिस्टर जब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे और अपोजिशन लीडर थे तब से वो चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी की बात करते चले आ रहे हैं। जरदारी साहब ने भी अभी चंद दिन पहले लाहौर में FPCCI में बड़ा खुल के चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी की बात की। अगर ये तमाम चाहते हैं तो ये चीज़ें जो मैंने कहीं स्पेशली ये प्राइवेटाइजेशन और टैक्स बेस को बढ़ाना थ्रू टैक्सिंग इनकम ऑन एग्रीकल्चर, रियल एस्टेट, बिल्डर्स, सर्विसेज सेक्टर जो कि इसको टैक्स नेट में नहीं है, और मर्चेंट्स और ट्रेडर्स पे टैक्स, डेट सस्टेनेबिलिटी, इन चीज़ों पे इन जमातों को आपस में बात कर लेनी चाहिए, क्योंकि कल को जो भी गवर्नमेंट में आएगा उसके काम आएंगी ये चीज़ें, और ये IMF के अगले प्रोग्राम में भी काम आएंगी। STPI इस पे ऑलरेडी एक्टिवली काम कर रही है। मुझे बताते हुए खुशी हो रही है कि वी हैड बीन वर्किंग ऑन इट। हमारी रिकमेंडेशन जो है वो हमने पार्लियामेंट तक भी पहुंचा दी हैं और हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि पार्लियामेंट में जो शामिल जमाते हैं उनके साथ इस बजट के दौरान ही इन स्पीचेस के दौरान करें, जिस पे कि हम चार्टर ऑफ इकोनॉमी को डिस्कस करें और इस एजेंडा को हम आगे लेके चलें। ओवरऑल फ्रेमवर्क शायद इसी तरह का रहेगा, बट आई कैन सी के जो नंबर्स हैं, नंबर्स अगर दो तीन दफ़ा नहीं तो कम से कम 2 दफ़ा तो ये चेंज हो रहे होंगे। एक शायद बजट के अप्रूव होने से पहले और एक इलेक्शन के बाद जबकि मिनी बजट आता है। तो इन नंबर्स पे हमें बहुत ज़्यादा वरी नहीं करना चाहिए, या IMF चेंज करवा लेगा। जो इसका असल रूह है जो कि दुरुस्त होने वाली है, उसकी तरफ हमें तवज्जो देनी चाहिए कि वो जो स्ट्रक्चरल इश्यूज हैं बजट में उनको एड्रेस किया जा सके। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. With that, I would like to thank all the panelists, Dr. Sajid, Dr. Waqar, Dr. Khalid, Mr. Wasif, and Mr. Ahad Nazir for the valuable comments on the budget. With that, I would like to thank the audience as well for joining us for this session. Thank you.
Thank you.